Okay, we're on mic. Are you going to start the meeting? Okay. Yeah. Bless you.
Pretend like I'm at home. It's like I'm at home all the time, so my social bracelets were never great, and they're really bad now.
All right, good morning, everybody. You are not live yet. Never mind. We are not live yet, so, oh. There we go. Okay, I'll ask. Madam Clerk, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. Sandy, are you ready? Almost? All right, I'll give you a minute.
Chelsea the fixer. So Kitty and Alexis, I have now for about the last 3 months, and I bought one bottle just. All female distillery, master distiller, it's up in Oregon.
Portland, Oregon.
Women rule the world.
And
All right, good morning, everybody. It is 10:03. Call to order the meeting for the Board of Washoe County, Board of Truckee Meadow Fire Protection District Commissioners for 10 a.m. on Tuesday, May 4th. And with that, Wade, will you lead us in the pledge this morning? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
remember, May the 4th be with you. May the 4th be with you.
May 4th, my friends. All right, Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call, please?
Of course. Bob Lucy, Chair.
Here.
Von Hartong, Vice Chair.
Here.
Alexis Hill. Here. Kitty Jung.
Present.
Jeannie Herman. Here. Fire Chief Charles Moore.
Here.
Deputy District Attorney Mary Canderas. Here. And I'm Jan Galasini, your county clerk. Sir, you have quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, appreciate that. Chief, we're on to item 3.
Item 3 is public comment. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the Board of Fire Commissioners' agenda. The district will also hear public comment during individual action items, with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the Board of Fire Commissioners as a whole.
All right, thank you, Chief. And it looks like we only have one gentleman here to speak, Mr. Bill Stewart, a ghost from the past. A welcomed ghost from the...
It's been a few years. Thank you very much for your
Good to
time,
see
as
you.
usual. Bill Stewart for the record. So after spending 20 plus years serving the public, not only in Washoe County, but also in California, just wanted to say that I've taken on a new venture so far as doing defensible space inspections and also doing fuels reduction. Working for a private contractor, Wilderness Forestry. Actually, after this meeting, I'm going up and meeting with the people up in Sunrise Basin. That's basically in California and Sierra County, and obviously you guys provide service to that, and I did as well over the last few years. I just wanted to talk to you about that and also possibly put something on the agenda. If you'd like that presentation or a more formal presentation of what we can do. We have masticators working with Augie over here and the fuels team, and also with NV Energy and Mark Regan and people I've known for 25 plus years. Yeah, just wanted to say that, and obviously congratulations, Alexis, on your election. And if you guys have any questions, I will leave some business cards with the clerk. And I just appreciate what you're doing, and Chief Moore for the Green Waste program. Like he said last month, you know, they got people lined up down the street. We can help with that. We have chippers, like I said, we have masticators, and we also are looking into something that you may want to look into as well. It's called the air curtain incinerator. CAL FIRE has a few of them, and they're looking to use them. And that's something else we can use to also get rid of green waste. So lots of cool stuff. I know we just celebrated NFPA Firewise on May 1st. Hopefully this season will not touch us like it has in the past, but if we do, I think we need to be proactive and make sure we do as much as we can to provide defense to the citizens of this great county. So thank you. I appreciate your time. God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Always good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right. I have no further public comment signed in the chambers. Is there anybody on Zoom wishing to speak? Seeing no members on Zoom, we will close public comment and move on to item 4. This is Fire Commissioners and Fire Chiefs announcements. Chief, do you have anything this morning?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to let the board and the public know that on May 18th, 9 a.m., we'll have a special meeting for a public hearing on the budget as required by NRS 354.596.
Great. So we'll have that. We have that on our calendars. We'll make sure we're here to approve the budget. Commissioners, anything that they'd like to add this morning? Commissioner Jung.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask the fire chief, I'm sure it's already on your bandwidth, or on your horizon, the National Weather Service presentation. I'd like to have, I just heard a report this morning that wet, more hot, more dry. I mean, everything has become a little bit more extreme, and that 10 years has really moved what is now considered normal. And it made me think, the Weather Service has to say, once they get a chance to crunch that data and apply it to their models, and I know you have it on your horizon, we get it a couple times a year, but it would help me as a fire commissioner and as a citizen just to know what to expect this summer. And as Mr. Stewart said, we have to be so proactive with teaching people to protect themselves. And I would like to see, if we could, more, and I don't really get a lot of your public information because I don't live in the fire district, but I did see some, in a different area, some, visuals on the streets going into the foothills of the California counties on the west side of the Sierra with all kinds of public information to remind people. And it'd be great to see a presentation that shows, why does that one house live, right? Why is it unscathed and every other home around it burns down? And usually, as you've taught us, there's a real cause and effect, which has to do with defensible space, and that not letting those embers have anything, including the roof, to create more fires. So I agree with the public commenter and retiree from TM that I think we have to do a lot more coming up, and just arming people with the ability to keep themselves safe. Because I think a lot of people will move into this community or been here for generations, and this is a new issue for them. They've never had to really think about how much they could do to prevent their home or property to be a total loss, which you know is absolutely devastating for people. So I just would love to hear the National Weather Service and any sort of publication or community outreach to just, like in Sun Valley, I'll give you a great example. That's my district, all the way up until 7th Avenue South. And when you sent us a text this weekend about a pallet fire, let me tell you something. You ever drive around Sun Valley? It looks like the perfect environment for a major fire. And the majority being manufactured homes, we know those go up very fast as well. So I'm looking forward to that presentation so I can be prepared and our community can be prepared, because I believe that TM has been the most vocal, instrumental, and proactive, and to make sure that our citizens know we're here to teach you, like junk the junipers, et cetera, so that you feel secure going into the fire season. I can't imagine living in some of that Collin Ranch area that's burnt down twice now, how people are able to function without that fear. And I think information combats fear. So I really look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jung. Vice Chairman, I have you signed in next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think that's Chris Smallcombe from the Weather Service who comes out and does those presentations for us. And I bet against him last time and I lost. Not having a miracle March, by the way, so he's very good. He's very good. But Chief, I wanted to thank the crews for the quick response out in Spanish Springs yesterday, up behind the Walmart and the Kohl's, how fast. In fact, I was driving home and we had some crews already heading up there, and so it was a quick response, and perhaps you can give us a little bit of feedback during the chief's report if you know what the cause was or how many acres it consumed. But you guys took care of it really quickly, and so I really want to thank everybody, because those can just, boy, it could have gotten out of hand quick. So thank you so much. And that was in Spanish Springs, but it was District 5 up on the hill. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Chief, one thing I'd like to point out, since our last board meeting, and I don't see anybody from the 2487 leadership here today, but I want to point out the 2487 hosted their Guns N' Hoses golf tournament last Monday, and it was a great success between the Washington County Sheriffs and TMFPD, Reno Fire, Sparks Fire, Reno PD, and Sparks PD. They raised, I believe, just over $35,000 for Children's Cancer Foundation. It's a great golf tournament. This is individuals getting together, 190 teams, right, Alex? You're looking about 190 teams that showed up to support this great event. And this is really put together by all of the firefighters and public safety officers throughout our region for children's cancer. They do a great job. They put it together on their own time, develop this tournament, and it's always a great success. So I want to, nice job, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen, for all the work that you put into that event and what you've done, because obviously children's cancer is benefits hugely from it, and thank you for doing that. So great job on that. One other thing, you have in here, obviously, that's part of the discussion today about open burning. I think we need to probably I'd like to see some more, if we can, more outreach in regards to when open burning closes and what's going on. A lot of people still were doing open burning after the fact, which is fine, I know, obviously, and we didn't have experience any problems from it, and I understand people don't understand completely the rules, but it is still a concern. We've had a couple nasty wind days that have picked up pretty substantially, from a calm morning to a pretty blustery afternoon. And that can be a massive issue if people are doing open burning still. So maybe some better outreach on that. That's all I would add to my comments for today. Anything else from anybody else? All right. Seeing none, I'll close that. We are on to item 5. Chief, this is our consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 5 is consent. Items A, B, and C. If there's any questions, staff would be glad to answer.
All right, thank you, Chief. Is there any questions on any items in A, B, and C in the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Vice Chair,
motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second, and so I have a motion from Vice Chair Hartung, second from Commissioner Hill.
Mr. Chairman, there's no
yeah.
public comment for any
I was
of
just
these
about to
items.
call that from you. So since there's no public comment, thank you, Madam Clerk. We will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously with all commissioners voting. All right, Chief, we are on to item 6, sir.
Item 6, we're getting an award. We have a Risk Leadership Award presented to Truckee Meadows Fire from our workers' comp carrier, 7710. And we have Bill Adamson on Zoom, who is the CEO of 7710. And let's see, Is that, does he want to go up first, Sandy, or do we want,
I can go if you want me to.
sure.
All right, Brandon, why don't you
Hi, well-
come with the podium?
Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead, sir. Mr. Adamson, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. It's Bill. Yes, as indicated, I'm the CEO of 7710 Insurance. Thank you for inviting us to your meeting today. 7710 Insurance has the honor of insuring and working with almost 200 fire districts across the country. We're the only one that's running these on a national basis. Yet working with you and the Truckee Meadows team has been the catalyst to create the 7710 Insurance Risk Leadership Award. The 7710 Insurance Risk Leadership Award that Brandon is about to present was created for leaders and their teams who meet the holistic approach to risk management. This includes loss control, claims reduction, and mentoring safety committees while developing a safety culture. Leadership that shares ideas and insights while gaining peer perspective is vital to a holistic approach. The best risk leaders bring peers together for engaging conversation on specific top-of-the-house risk topics, and then continues with follow-up conversations and opportunities for overall organizational risk management. By looking at best practice, near-miss incidents, and areas of improvement, true risk leadership has a proven track record in improving worker safety. The recipient of the 7710 Insurance 2020 Risk Leadership Award is Chief Moore and the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District. Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District leadership and command staff, in participation with union membership and the County of Washoe, have partnered with 7710 Insurance on risk reduction initiatives, loss reduction trends, and the overall focus of organizational safety. As a participant of the 7710 SHIELD program, SHIELD stands for Safety and Health Initiative for Evaluating Loss Defenses. Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District has proven that collaboration and partnership can benefit the district in positive ways. We commend Chief Moore and the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District leadership and truly value your collaborative partnership. Brandon, if you want to make the presentation.
Brandon.
Mr. Chairman, if I could introduce Mr. Brandon Lewis from USI. And I want to mention that 7710 and USI, with Brandon's help, have really turned around our loss ratios on workers' comp. So we were not headed for a good place, and since we've had 7710 on board, we've been able to turn the tide and reduce our claims experience.
Mr. Lewis, always good to see you.
Good
How are you,
morning.
Brandon?
Good to see you, Chairman Lucy, members of the board, Fire Chief Moore and staff. Brandon Lewis, for the record, with USI Insurance Services. And I'm just glad to be the messenger today for Bill Adamson and 7710. This is their inaugural Risk Leadership Award for the district. And it's truly been an honor to work, with the district over these years. 7710 stepped up 2 years ago to provide the workers' comp, but they're a carrier that just doesn't provide the coverage. They wanted to work with us and the district. They attend the safety meetings, mostly virtually, but they've been there all along the way the last 2 years to help us, help your teams in their great efforts. And I'd like to also commend the safety committee, led by Chief Schum. They've just been very active and very diligent in the last 2 years to protect your personnel and the community. So with that, I'm glad to present this, and if possible, 7710 asked if it might be possible to get a photo with the members of the board.
Absolutely. We'd be happy to do that. So we will we'll step down here and take a brief recess and step down into the pit and take a picture with you.
We'll come down there, yeah.
What a great award. Really, thank you. Obviously, Mr. Adamson and 7710 and Mr. Lewis. Brandon, I was telling Brandon, he spends so much time with us here at the TM and also with the county. I almost figured he's part of our team and an employee here. Yeah, it's funny when he leaves the building to go work somewhere else. All right, Mr. Lewis, thank you for coming. Mr. Adamson, thank you so much for the kind words, and we do appreciate the award. It's very rare that an insurance company gives a fire agency an award, but I think that's pretty well. That speaks highly of what we do here and accomplish here.
There it is, Mr. Chairman.
That's fantastic. What a great award.
You're
All right.
quite welcome.
That is beautiful too. What a fantastic. All right.
Let's do it.
With that, we will move on to item 7. This is the local 2487 report. I don't see anybody here from the 2487 that would like to give a report. So we'll scratch that item and move on to item 8. Chief, this is your fire chief report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll ask Chief Kukulis to give you just a brief report on the wildland fire yesterday. But Walmart.
There we go. Good morning. For the record, Alex Kukulis, Deputy Fire Chief. Yeah, just quick update on that one. Yesterday, it was ended up being about 1.5 acres in the subdivision just north of the Walmart on Pyramid Highway on the west side there. It was reported at the same time we were doing our preseason wildland training, actually, so we had some resources up in the north already doing those sort of things. But it's also right there, basically on the edge of the city of Sparks and Truckee Meadows boundary. So we had a lot of assistance come from Sparks, their battalion chief, and some additional resources. So I think just a testament to the automatic aid we have with each other and the quick jump on that we got on that. You may or may not have noticed we had some warmish temperatures, but not anything too unusual, and just a light breeze. But I'm saying that because given that it's early May and we're seeing that kind of fire activity already, Chief Eisenhagen's mentioned it. We just think sort of anecdotally we're trending about a month ahead of time about where we're normally at. So we did get our preview of coming attractions. We'll get the full weather report and forecast, but we've kind of seen some of that preliminary information, and they're actually predicting sort of a average season in this area, but that's mostly because we didn't get a real wet spring. We didn't get the grass growth, the light fuels that typically carry our fires, but the caveat to that is that we're really dry, so the fuels that are there are ready to go. So any kind of wind or anything else that's gonna help carry them, it's gonna be off to the races. So we'll see.
Hey,
Jury's
Chief,
out,
before
but-
you get off that subject, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, do we know what the cause was?
I don't know if it's final, but we did have some juveniles in the area.
That's
I'll
what I
just say
thought,
that.
yeah. Children, yep, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
All
All
right.
right, thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
I'll mention, Mr. Chairman, that we did close open burning for spring, and we'll take a more concerted effort to message that. I want to announce that the point of dispensing events that we're holding at Barron Way, we're starting to drop off, and that's really happening across the region, so we'll be consolidating those point of dispensing efforts after June 1st, probably just to the Washoe County Fairgrounds here. And I want to give a shout out to Shane Ackerson, who's one of our captains, who's been coordinating that and done a fantastic job for us. So we'll still be doing pods through June 1st, but after that, no longer, unless the demand picks up, which I don't think it's going to.
Great.
And I'll just answer any questions on the monthly report. We did have 2 simultaneous structure fires on April 10th, which I would say that by virtue of the fact that we've had additional resources up north with the Medic 45, it really was instrumental in helping us handle 2 structure fires that were 20 minutes apart. And I think that emphasizes the validity of our strategy that we've expressed, that we want to move more resources up to the north and create a new balance of more stations and more firefighters in the Northern Battalion, because that's just historically where we see a lot of incidents. So with that, I will answer any questions that the board might have.
Great, thank you, Chief. I have a comment, and I think it lies directly into what Commissioner Jung was speaking about in regards to the pallet fire within, in Sun Valley. We very luckily had our ladder truck back in service the night of that fire. And it was proved to be a very helpful resource to putting out that fire because of the nature of that fire, from my understanding. And so, we're lucky that that was out of in service just a couple weeks prior, but it was out of service for about a month, correct, Chief?
Yeah, thereabouts, waiting for parts mostly, yeah.
Right. And so I would advocate that obviously we were lucky this time, but that really we need a second ladder truck. And I would like to see something discussed in regards to that in our capital improvement plan, because that really was something that we need to address. It needs to be in the Northern Battalion. Whether we move it from the Southern Battalion to the Northern Battalion or buy another one, we need to get something like that online. And I know I've said it before, but I want to reiterate it again because this last weekend was a perfect example of why we need that ladder truck in that Northern Battalion. It's not necessarily for large buildings, but it's for everything else that's important to that. So I think it's important as we talk about calls and what we've been seeing, that's important that we see something like that. So just a comment in regards to that moving forward. I have no other discussion or questions for that. Is there any other discussion on the Chief's report from anybody? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Chief. Great job this month. We are on to item 9, sir.
Item 9 is presentation, discussion, and direction to staff on the status of the fiscal year 2021 budget with expected general fund expenditures of $36,689,230 and an estimated ending fund balance of $9.6 million, and the fiscal year 21-22 tentative budget with proposed general fund expenditures of $38,906,980 and an ending fund balance of $6.4 million for Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District. This is for possible action. Before Sandy gets started, I think I'll just talk a little bit about service level, and I'll let Sandy run through the numbers. The service level we have for next year is we anticipate continuing the response of the medic out of Station 45. So that'll make a crew of 3 on the engine and 2 on the ambulance. And feedback I get from staff is that it is really adding a dimension to our response that is proving to be very, very effective. So we anticipate that we will continue that, and we'll be talking to REMSA very soon about possible expansions. But nevertheless, that is the biggest service level with respect to emergency services in our busiest district, Sun Valley. With the fuels program, we're continuing to have a very strong effort from the fuels division. We now have 18 employees, which I would mention that are largely grant funded, so that's really not costing the TM taxpayers much in the way of the work that they're doing. It's nice, it's a great thing that NV Energy is funding the lion's share of that, but we also have 18 additional firefighters to help us with wildland fires when they do break out, and also do fuels projects for individual homeowners and county projects as they come up. So we're now up to 170 employees, which when we started this district 9 years ago, we were barely over 100. You can see how big that this district has grown, and that really points the need for a little bit more overhead with respect to the administration of this district. But nevertheless, we're adding additional firefighters, and we're very grateful that we got the SAFER grant for 3 positions, and firefighters will be coming out of academy in June or July and be hitting the line at the peak of wildland season. So we anticipate being at full strength, and the department, I think, is in as best shape as it has been in the last 9 years, thanks to the good work of my staff and new programs that we've initiated. So with that, I'll let Cindy go into the numbers, and we'll answer any questions.
the fun stuff.
Welcome, Ms. Vance. Go ahead.
Cindy Vance, Chief Fiscal Officer for the record. So as Chief Moore said, we are growing to 170 employees anticipating growing to 170 employees for fiscal year 21-22 budget. Much of the growth did happen during fiscal year 21 with the SAFER grant and the fuels crew employees. With this budget, we are presenting to add 4 additional new positions, which are an EMS coordinator that would start about as soon as July 1st, a division chief dedicated to training, a fire prevention specialist, and a human resource assistant that would start in January 1st. So those are funded for fiscal year 22 at 0.5 for each position. Okay. So this is a little small, even on the screen, but this is a presentation for our summary of our general fund. It shows the fiscal year 21 original budget that we presented last May, which included our cuts that we did in anticipation of, or in response to the pandemic. We had cut our revenues down to 31 million. Most of those cuts were in our consolidated tax, which we budgeted at about 7.8 million when the state was projecting at about 10 million. We are happy to say that actually that consolidated tax looks like it's going to come in close to that 10 million mark after all. And then with the addition of new programs related to ambulance billing and fire prevention and the NV Energy and NDF programs, we're looking to end at about 35 million, which is about a $4 million increase in our revenues. And for fiscal year 22, we're budgeting a proposed budget of about $38 million in revenues. This does include $22.5 million in taxes, which is based on the state's budget. The consolidated taxes are part of the intergovernmental amounts, and those are at just over 10 million for fiscal year 22. And then with the other programs that we have running, we're looking at estimated revenues of just over 38 million, and we believe that's actually a conservative estimate, and we always hope that'll come up higher. Expenditures, the original budget, it was for 33 million. And we did end up, we are projecting to spend just over 36 million, 36.7 million. Much of that is from the NV Energy, NDF program. All those positions were not in the budget when we started the original budget, and we added those, but those also provide offsetting revenues for them. And we did have some additional expenditures for just responses to COVID. FEMA did not allow us to be reimbursed for employees, like backfill for employees that were off due to exposure risks. So those are one of the things that had been denied. So we did have some extra overtime related to that, running the ambulance, which we hope will also end up in some possible additional revenues that are not included in the budget yet. The fuels crew I mentioned, and also the FEMA positions, those were newly added during fiscal year 21 that weren't in the original budget. Those all are included in the next year's budget though, and we're projecting almost $39 million in expenditures. When I first started here, we were around 28, maybe 30. So we've grown by 30% in just over 4 years. And we'll go, most of our expenses, again, our salaries and benefits. We'll look a little bit on another slide of the allocation between the different categories of expenses. We have contingencies, transfers, including our capital projects fund, which is funded through transfers from the general fund. It does not earn its own revenues. Our sick and annual comp benefits fund, that's an unusual fund. It's actually something that is, I think, great for the district. It actually helps us set money aside for the compensated absence balances when people retire. We've had some payouts over $200,000 to employees, depending on to them or to different benefit plans when people retire. And then, of course, our new debt service fund, which just is for principal and interest on our debt authorization. So last year, we budgeted for about a 16.4% fund balance. This year, and we ended up with which is a $5.4 million projected fund balance, and a 8.5 beginning fund balance. We actually started with a beginning fund balance at 11.4. So our beginning fund balance was much larger than expected, and that comes down to our projected ending fund balance is larger than suspected by just over $4 million. We're projecting it ending at about $9.6 million, which is a 26% fund balance. Our proposed budget does come in about 16.5. It's a conservative budget. It allows us to do the programs we really want, but also, and gives us that ability. And again, it's conservative with revenues, but we think that's still a healthy fund balance. It's about where we budgeted last year, and then we end up hopefully higher. This is an allocation of our revenues. As you can see, about almost 90% of our budget comes from two different sources, which are your consolidated taxes, which is $10.3 million for fiscal year '22, and our property taxes, which are about $22 million. So that is, again, 90% of our sources are from tax revenues. We do get some other intergovernmental, which are different smaller taxes at about 6%, and our miscellaneous and other sources are at 8%. And that is a number that is growing with the NV Energy contracts and different programs, including ambulance billings and prevention plan reviews and inspection fees that we are starting to collect. Okay. The general fund expenses are made up of salaries, benefits, and services supplies. The salaries are about 53% and benefits 80%. So over 80% of our budget is salaries and benefits, which is expected. That's what we do, is we provide people's services. Services and supplies are 17%, and that goes just all support, including our repairs, maintenance to our fleet, and obviously different services that we have to have, consultants, insurance, et cetera, property insurance. This is an overlook of our expenses by cost center. The emergency operations, which are our direct fire-related operations, is 65%. That is the majority of our services. Administration is 10%, and that does include most of our, several of our division chiefs in that. And safety and training is 3%, and that directly supports the emergency operations. It could be even considered part of it. Those are the training services provided to emergency ops. Our fuel management, which is including our crew, are 6%. Again, that's majority is paid for, probably about 99% is paid for through contracts with NV Energy and NDF. That started fiscal year '21 budget was at 2%, so that's made a big change from our services. Fire prevention at 2%, logistics, which is all the services that are provided to the emergency operations, including their supplies, but then also staff to get them the supplies at 3%. Fleet, 3%, our fleet continues to grow. EMS at 3%. And overhead, that's 5%. That's kind of like our services that really go for all division, including our administration building and property insurance and such. Will hit that cost center. Okay. Included in the tentative fiscal year '21-22 budget that we'll be bringing back in a couple weeks for adoption, are special programs. So we do individually look at, we look at the district as a whole and our just status quo of our firefighters and our current programs. And then we look at our extra on what the different programs that we want to fund and we think are very important to the community and to staff, and allocate funds for them for each year. We did grow, peer support was 50,000 last year. I know that's been a very important one. It's grown to 75%. Our medic staffing, we have set aside an extra 200,000 for overtime, and that's to do the the ambulance. One of the hopes is that we are going to get the GEMT funds that relate to providing ambulance services, and we are hoping that it's going to be around 3 million. That is not included in our revenues of a budget, so we are seeing the expenses, and if that's something that could change, if we don't think we're going to get those funds, we may cut those services. 45,000 for the wet team, 157,000 is SCBA repair and replacement, 35,000 for hazmat training and supplies, 110,000 for radio repair and replacement. 80,000 is for a promotional assessment program, that's some succession planning. 38,000 officer development, this also relates to succession planning. $160,000 for the new recruiting academy, and that includes the portion that's currently going on, and then available to have another academy for turnover if necessary. 40,000 for the green waste program, which has been a great success. 135,000 for EMS training, 25,000 for hydrant repairs, and 10,000 for our mobile data terminal repair and replacement. Also, separating these programs helps us watch their costs and determine the needs in the future and whether we need to make changes to how we run these programs. These are items, again, we look at them as a whole. They are something that if our revenues started to drop, it is something we can consider, and these are not just status quo. We can consider what's most important to the district, and this is probably where we would start any cutting of expenses if necessary. But we believe these are all very important programs for the community and the district. Our capital projects fund, again, is through a transfer, and we have budgeted a transfer of 1.1 million. We do have our presentation, an agenda item coming up related to the debt issuance to buy Barron Way. So that will be in there. The 1.1 million will be a transfer in, but we do expect a $7 million proceeds from debt to buy Barron Way. So that's at about, the purchase of Barron Way is 6.4 million, and then there's other facilities that the additional proceeds from the debt will be used for, including such as completing the design and construction of Hidden Valley, and that's at about 1.8 million. The design of Washoe Valley Consolidated Fire Station. We have 7 new command vehicles in the budget. Protective clothing replacement, and this is about $400,000, and that's due to end of life of our PPE. It only lasts a certain amount of time, and we have a big bunch that's coming up for replacement. We also put about $450,000 away for major facility repairs, and often that actually rolls, but that is in there if there is a major repair that can happen that's for some reason isn't covered by insurance. We need new doors, garage doors and such, that we have the ability to make those repairs without issuing any debt or anything, but make those immediately. And then debt service for our current outstanding debt related to capital, which is about $650,000. The last thing, we will be coming in June with a last augmentation for the fiscal year 21 budget, just to true up. Part of it is to true up our grants and our service programs, including the NV Energy NDF. So we'll be closer to knowing what our actual expenses are that are reimbursable. So we'll true up the revenues based on what we originally estimated or augmented. And the same thing with our SAFER grant. We will be also using some of our contingencies and additional revenues and some of that beginning fund balance to request a augmentation for the ambulance staffing that we did do, which did increase our overtime. And as I mentioned earlier, increased overtime also due to the pandemic, overtime for backfill that is not covered by FEMA for not allowing employees exposure risk off. And some of the costs for the point of dispensing, we will need to make an additional transfer to our emergency fund. The revenues, the emergency fund is self-replenishing mostly, but currently our reimbursements aren't coming in as fast as we need for the cash. And FEMA is one that's actually really running quite far behind with, I know, I can't even get an email answer or anything, so, yeah, so I'm actually not expecting FEMA, probably, I would even be surprised, wouldn't be surprised if it took a year to get that funds. And then fleet repair costs, we have, again, a growing fleet, so some of the supplies have run over budget, and the SAFER grant, which I already mentioned, so.
Great.
With that, we'll leave to any questions or comments.
Thank you, Ms. Vance. I'm sure looks like we have a couple of questions and comments for you. Vice Chair Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have we, and I'm not suggesting we cut our staff back, but have we done an actuarial on the cost of using outside resources for our fuels reduction and our fuels management programs to potentially leverage our dollars? I don't know whether, it's more advantageous to the Corps to have it internally or to do it externally. And I just wonder, at some point, would we do an actuarial to just compare those costs? I mean, it's why we sub out lots of things, because, you don't have to have, some of the capital expenditures that go along with it.
I can talk on that, Commissioner.
Thank you.
For the record, Division Chief August Eisenhagen over fuels and wildfire. Like Ms. Vance said, one key piece for us is that 90% of it is funded outside of
Right.
Truckee Meadows. So we're not eating any of those costs, well, next to any of those costs. The second piece, if we were to contract it out, we lose that ability to field those extra firefighters when we need them,
Okay.
if we're contracting out for the fuels work.
But those funds may not last forever from
Correct.
NV Energy. And so, as we assimilate those firefighters into the Corps, I just think it would be wise to just at least do an actuarial to see if it makes sense to, farm some of it out, not necessarily the management and the oversight, but, sort of some of the heavy lifting.
Right. And we have had those conversations with contractors like
Right.
Mr. Stewart was just
Right.
mentioning. We have loosely $3.5 million in other grant applications in, and if we're awarded those, then we'll be obviously at
Yeah, and I mean,
capacity
if we can leverage those dollars, I mean, it just makes sense.
Yep, absolutely.
So, because, again, you don't have to have the overhead associated with it. If it takes a specific piece of equipment, that's not our problem.
Right.
Right? I mean, that's their problem. And so it, sometimes it works to our benefit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Ms. Vance, I do have a couple questions for you in regards to the funding for the special programs. I'm assuming the $75,000 is for the peer support group that Derek Reed and others have.
Yes.
And this is in addition, or is this total? This is the total
This
commitment.
is total.
Total commitment.
It was 50,000 last year, so it's an additional 25,000 to bring it
Okay.
to 75.
Great. It's a wonderful program. I still want to make sure that has adequate funding going forward. The $110,000 for the radio repair and replacement. Obviously, this is going to be an ongoing, so it's not necessarily, in my opinion, a special program. This is an ongoing until we have the P25 radios. And so why putting it into a special program instead of just something, a general fund allocation?
Specifically, actually, so we can watch it and see how much it does, but we do meet with them and discuss exactly what they need for that next year, because it can change, like, depending on when those P25s come in, that will have that big major purchase, and then this may go down.
Do you know how much that liability is going to be for us for all the radios for the P25 system?
I do not, but I can get with Chief Kettering. He's the one that runs that program, and get that information to
Okay,
you.
great. Yeah, and then the 25,000 for hydrant repairs, we've talked about this a number of times. Obviously, we have we've had agenda topics in regards to maintenance and ongoing repairs of these hydrants. Is this in conjunction with those discussions, or is this totally separate? Can you kind of explain the hydrant repairs for me?
I can
Okay.
take that one, Mr. Chairman. We've been talking to Tumwa, of course, and also with Mr. Dwayne Smith, who's here to speak on another issue, but the issue centers around ownership of the hydrants and who's going to do what.
Right.
So I think what we've settled right now is that Tumwa agrees to do the minor maintenance, the testing and painting and lubing of the threads. Washoe County would assume ownership, and we've been asked, TM's been asked to do the major repairs so that when somebody runs over a hydrant or it just simply breaks, TM has been asked to do the hydrant replacement.
Okay.
So this is a conversation I need to have with the board, because if you take some 3,000 hydrants and the cost of replacing that hydrant at $7,000, that's a very big number that the district would have to fund at some point, because hydrants don't last forever. They last about 50 years or so. So who's going to do what? Historically, TM has done that even before the interlocal, where Reno was providing those services. TM, a long time ago, did hydrant replacement. So I wouldn't say it's settled yet, but we still need to have some money there to replace those hydrants as is necessary.
Yeah, no, and I
as they
don't
wear
disagree,
out.
Chief. I think that the hydrant repairs is imperative that we have there. I just want to make sure that there's adequate funding to do that, because I know that was a discussion we've had before, like you just repeated, in the sense that we've got 3,000 hydrants out there, very high expense. Is 25,000 enough to really facilitate those necessary repairs throughout the unincorporated area of the county?
Yeah, it's hard to know. We've spent around $25,000, $30,000, $45,000, fluctuating over the years. So it's just, it really is.
So this is just
dependent upon how many
this is
kids.
just a guess to kind of start the fund, is what you're saying?
Yes.
All right. All right. Those are all my questions. Commissioner Hill, I have you send in next.
Thank you. I was just wondering, within this budget, if we build in special events, seeing that those are coming back, and I know that TM has helped with the Earth Day event at the regional park there and Mayberry Park, and I was just wondering, just because having kids see TM Fire and that, maybe I could do that, and kind of helping us with recruitment and community building. I was just curious if we have that built into the budget.
We'll usually fund those out of overtime, the normal nominal line item for overtime, and ask off-duty personnel or even the medics that we staff to come in and stand by. We also work with REMSA on who's going to stand by for those events. So, but yes, there's plenty of funding within the budget to take care of those.
Great. And then on the command vehicles, if there's, availability to look at a green-powered vehicle, just let me know for this fiscal year so I can get us partnered with MV Energy and see if there's a grant we can apply for getting you a charging station at the new station.
Great.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Jung, I have you send in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Going back to the fire hydrants and who's responsible for what, can you, or whoever here is serving on Tumwa for us, get me information on what Sparks and Reno's requirements and contractual agreements are? Because I think that needs to be trued up and fair, and Tumwa can afford it. We can't. And I will not be treated as a second-class citizen in this region because something wasn't scratched on on the back of a napkin in an evening with our great leaders from years ago. I want to fight this one. We don't deserve to pay Tumwa's responsibility, especially if they give Reno and Sparks a different deal. And not only do we not deserve to pay, it is an overabundance of discrimination to require us to pay. So I get you need that 25,000 in there, but I'm telling you, this commissioner on this board is not playing with them anymore. And if they can't treat us fair and square, they need to treat the other two entities and all sort of other entities that Tom was involved in the exact same way. Because then it's a net zero. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Jung. Vice Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, so Commissioner Jung, I'll answer some of that with, the city of Reno and the city of Sparks have to pay for the laterals that connect this.
We're not agendized to do that, so we can do
You want
that.
to answer that, Chief?
Mm-mm.
No?
No.
I'm
Let's do,
being,
we're not agendized, so
Okay.
Commissioner Jung's made a prudent discussion about that, and I think we can bring that back or have that conversation online, but we're just not stylized to do that today.
It's deeper than what it seems. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You guys, I think we can talk offline about that and get a plan. Is that okay with everybody? Yeah. All right, thank you. All right, any further questions in regards to the budget for Mrs. Vance and all right, seeing none. Is there any public comment on this item, Madam Clerk? All right, seeing no public comment, I think we've asked a number of questions of that. Looking for a motion to approve the presentation.
So moved.
I have a motion from the Vice Chairman, second from Commissioner Herman. I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Please, motion carries unanimously. Please affirm your vote on the screen.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Vance, appreciate it. Wonderful presentation. Chief, you're on item 10.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 10 is a recommendation to approve a 2-year interlocal contract between Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District and the state of Nevada, acting by and through the Nevada Division of Forestry. This is the WFPP contract that we have with NDF, and this is probably the single thing that keeps the district afloat financially. Last year, there were millions and millions of dollars of costs fighting wildland fires, which if we didn't have this program would be on us, and I'm not sure how we would have afforded that. So this is basically an insurance policy that the NDF and state of Nevada provides us. We pay them $198,000 a year, and they reimburse the district for its firefighting costs, both in Truckee Meadows and also on federal lands when we have costs related to those. So I can't think of a better deal for the district. Similar proposal will go before the county, but this is specific for TM's jurisdiction. And I would strongly recommend approval on this. If there's any questions, Chief Eisenhagen can answer those, but this is the same contract essentially that the board has approved in the previous 4 or 5 years.
Great. Chief Eisenhagen, why don't you come on down? Vice Chairman Hart, I have you signed in.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief or Chief, either one, has it always been 198,000? Why does 75,000 stick in my mind?
So the last contract cycle was about 125,000, so we're looking at about a 75,000 increase. this
Okay.
cycle, Due to
Okay.
previous fire activity.
It was 125,000, okay. And for some reason, I thought it, maybe in past years, for some reason, maybe I'm conflating two issues, but,
Well, and it is going up because of our fire activity over the last several years.
yeah,
That's absolutely brought into the forefront.
yeah. I just seem to remember it as being like 75 grand, and I couldn't get my money out fast enough. But, yeah, I mean, I understand the cost of insurance, and I understand,
No, I have that.
you know, the need for this. Some years ago, when I served on the Land Transfer Task Force, my biggest fear was transferring land to Washoe County and us becoming responsible for a massive wildfire somewhere in the county that was essentially burning across what was BLM land.
Right.
And putting taxpayers at risk for that. And so I was very reticent about assuming that risk for Washoe County taxpayers. So I still, even though this seems to be substantially higher, I guess my question, or my comment rather, not a question, is what isn't at this point? So, yeah, anytime you're ready, Mr. Chairman. I know there are probably other questions, but I'm prepared to make a motion.
All right. I have Commissioner Jung signed in first, so I'll go to Commissioner Jung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's funny that the Vice Chairman mentioned that because I was just whispering to my colleague, Commissioner Hill, that Commissioner Hartung is a subject matter expert of this because we did appoint him to the state policy board that was proposing that, the oldest fight in the state of Nevada, which is, number one, you're not battle-born. I hate to tell you that. You were in no battles. Number two, you also say, give us back our land. You agreed when you became a state to not take all the federal land. That was part of the agreement. So I love that because it gives us some history. But I so agree with you, Vice Chairman Hartung, because had we not sent you there and you became a subject matter expert, I was trying to tell Commissioner Hill here, against the rules according to the chair, I'm not supposed to chit-chat, but sometimes it's just quicker.
Following the rules quickly.
But it was so incredibly instructive to this commissioner who didn't know a lot of the history, and ultimately the financial risk that we would be taking. You came back and gave us facts and figures. The thing that stood out to me, one good fire here would decimate the entire district, if not the county. Yeah, so, because we are the real fiduciary agent over the Truckee Meadows Fire Division. So while this is expensive, this, as Commissioner Hill whispered to me, this is an expensive business that we're in, and it really is because of so much liability that we have. So I'm glad that you mentioned that, Mr. Vice Chairman. I didn't need to whisper that to her. And so
Thank you for that.
he can
Everybody.
And I would wholeheartedly encourage you, Mr. Vice Chairman, to stay involved in that at that level because you have absorbed and understood, and you really represented us so well there. Because I know that you were in the vast minority speaking about, guys, sounds like a great idea until it's not. So I'm ready to make the vote too, but I'm glad that we do have a subject matter expert here. And let me tell you, when we did appoint Commissioner Hartung, none of us knew what we were going into or what he might bring back. And everything he brought back to this commission was fair and balanced and completely looking out as a fiduciary agent, our number one responsibility for this community. And I mean, really, we are the fiduciary agent of all of Northern Nevada. If you look at all the bonds that go through us, our CBA saved $8 million total because we bond. I'll never get off that one, Commissioner Lucy. But we hold a lot of risk for everyone. So we actually have more responsibility to this entire region to not get ourselves in a position that we then bankrupt everyone. So I understand that it's a lot of money, but it's a lot of risk. So I think it's reasonable.
Well, and if I may.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
For reference, last fire season, just Poville, we're at about $150,000 just in our own personnel and equipment. That's no cooperators, no aircraft, none of that, right? And that gets covered by this agreement. The Rock Farm fire, we had 3 VLAT drops, very large air tankers, the DC-10s. Those average $80,000 to $100,000 a drop, right? So it is a substantial amount of money, but just in those 2 fires, it covers that for the year. There's ancillary benefits as well. By participating in this, we end up with an NDF engine stationed in our district, and when they're not on fires, they're going to project work under this agreement without any extra cost for us.
Great.
For fuels mitigation.
All right. Great, Chief Eisenhagen. Thank you for the presentation. Is there any public comment on this item, Madam Clerk?
No, there's not.
All right. Seeing no public comment, bring it back to the board. I'm looking for a motion at this time. Vice Chairman.
Motion to approve as listed in the staff report.
All right. I have a motion from the Vice Chair. I have a second from Commissioner Jung. I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously with all commissioners voting. Please affirm your votes on the screen. Thank you very much. Chief Eisenhagen, thank you for today. All right, Chief, item 11.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 11 is a recommendation to authorize Washoe County Community Services Department to begin to manage the Hidden Valley Fire Station improvements for us. Mr. Dwayne Smith is here to give you a presentation, but the board may recall As we've talked about the projects, capital projects and facility projects we'd like to do, we would like to move those over to the experts at Washoe County to manage those for the district.
Wonderful. What a great.
Good morning, Board. Good morning, Chief. For the record, Dwayne Smith, Director of Engineering and Capital Projects for Washoe County. So again, as Chief said, we appreciate the opportunity to come work with the fire district again on more projects, more capital projects. And as we previously stated, we want to make sure that we're always bringing you the confidence that we're delivering the projects following NRS requirements and Washoe County policies as we go through this. So the item before you is really seeking your direction to initiate an RFQ process, a request for qualifications process, for the Hidden Valley tenant improvement and Bay project. And with that direction that we would potentially receive from you today, we will initiate that RFQ process immediately. We're prepared and ready to do so and make any tweaks that you would ask for. Just a couple of points. As we go through this process, the desire is to identify the best architectural design firm to provide us with that level of service. Once we have those plans, all that information detailed, then we're going to go on to a hard bid process. So this is going to be a design, bid, build project. I think this brings the best value for how we're delivering this type of project, gives the most opportunity for competition. And in today's market, with the way that the construction costs are, the more competition is always the better to seek that best value. Couple of other points. Ultimately, this project, we've already got a little bit of a head start on some of the items. The comprehensive SUP is complete, as well as the action order, so that will allow us to advance quickly. And we really expect, with potential direction from you today, we're going to initiate that RFQ process and be back in front of you in July with that agreement for professional services. Mm-hmm. With that, we'll have, based on that, the negotiated agreement, we'll have schedule to tie to that. So that will continue to keep you in the loop as we move through the projects. And with that, I would take any questions.
Great. Any questions? Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a comment. As Commissioner Jung has so eloquently stated in the past about having subject matter experts, they're right here in our own fold. I mean, I could not agree more with allowing our engineering and capital projects division to take this over. They're going to look out for our best interest. It's not like hiring someone from the outside. I mean, it's like having a family member giving us guidance. So I'm fully supportive of this, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Jung, I have you send in next.
I just wanted to say in response to the Vice Chairman, the best part of this entire job that I believe I crafted unconsciously for myself is this is like being in college or grad school, because we get our packets, the professor stands up, the subject matter expert, and we get to go through our packet and say, well, what about this, Mr. Smith? Well, I did a little Googling, and this, we really get to have an experience of such refined subject matter experts, I might say, in terms of their area and their skill, of all the staff that sit in here, whether it's our security staff, it's our district attorney staff, it is our admin staff. I always feel like I'm back in school, and I love school. So it is, there's no better job if you're an academic, I believe, because you're right, Vice Chairman Hartung, we do have great subject matter experts here that we can rely upon. And the better part is when you're in school, while you can argue with your professor, the difference is we can also convince our subject matter experts to take at least into consideration what our values are and what informs what our voters' values are. Most importantly, who cares what my values are? It's the values of the majority of the people that live in my district. So I just wanted to get that on the record. That is the best part of this entire job, how much I get to talk to the cream of the crop in their field and argue with a little bit and ask them, push them a little bit to maybe sometimes go a different way. And I hope that all of our subject matter experts also feel comfortable to go, you're absolutely wrong, Jung. That's not the way the universe works. Can you go back to your Google and try again? Because that's another issue that we run in here. So you're right, Mr. Vice Chairman. That is, to me, the cream on top of the crop here for doing this job. So I really do appreciate that. And I don't think we say enough, I've brought this up before, I don't think we say enough about how great the county employees are, just from the level of credentials and abilities. We are the employer of record, second largest employer, that hires the most credentialed staff. And I don't always think a college education is everything. We're going to start talking about something else about that too this next fiscal year, which is I don't believe that a college education should be a barrier or a gatekeeping to keep somebody who can do a job, because ability to get a college education and a credential, I'm sorry to tell you, that's an elitist ability. You are in the top, 17%, and there's a lot of gatekeeping around that I believe is institutionalized racism, and we'll talk about that later too. But if somebody can do a job and they've been doing the job and the next job is open for them, I don't like you have to go back and get a degree for this, especially now that degrees cost in the six figures for a $30,000 job. Not that we pay that, I think we pay very well, but you guys get the
Yes.
hyperbole there.
Yes.
So for that is the best part of this job. And I get to work with commissioners who choose to make an area their subject matter expertise. I don't worry ever about development, ever, because I know I've got the vice chairman down there who loves to get in the weed. He's a planner in his back pocket, really. He's probably one of the better planners in terms of what it looks like to do it on the ground. And that's where we're lucky that we're not all lawyers up here. No offense to lawyers ever, but we're not all, but 20 years ago, it was all lawyers sitting up here. You had to really have a law degree, they thought, to do this job. And I say more of the citizen commission reflects what our citizens look like, as it always should. I think we could be a little browner, a little gender different, in terms of I can't even say it now, LGBTQIA plus. But I think we are lucky for that. And I never want to lose that, because as a scholar, and truly I believe myself to be an academic, this has fulfilled so many needs that get me through some of the hard days too. So that's just my gratitude and my insight. And I don't think I've ever told anybody that, but I really feel like I'm in grad school up here and I love it. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Jung. And I couldn't agree more with my colleagues. I think that this is a very smart and very intelligent way to approach this process. I think when Commissioner Hill brought this forward in regards to having an open, transparent, very clear process, she brought forward some amazing ideas and some opportunities, which truly opens doors in the sense that we are looking at every project not from the sole understanding of one individual or one company, but we're looking at it in a collective. And I think that a collective approach, multiple different perspectives, multiple different ideas, and different ideologies as it approaches these projects brings forward a ton of different information that you might not understand. Yes, we probably have seen great product from previous contractors and subcontractors that we've had under our employment, but I think having this in-house truly gives us that opportunity to be advocates not only for our area and bring in a public voice to it, but also have expertise that maybe not have, that may not have a quite understanding of how the county or the TMFBD does that project. So highly in support of this. I think this is the smartest way to do this. Yes, it takes time. Yes, we are seeing costs of construction go up, but I think we as an agency and as a government owe that service to our public.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. You know, ultimately they're paying the dollar. It's their tax dollar that pays for that station. It's the station that lives in their community. None of us were going to benefit from, directly from one of those stations. But we want to make sure that those stations and how we do our business has direct input from our customers, which is the general public, and always has been. So, all right, Mr. Smith, thank you so much for your coming down and presenting to us today. There's no further questions for Mr. Smith. Madam Clerk, is there any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment.
Seeing no public comment, I will close public comment and bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Vice Chairman, looking for a
I
motion.
move to approve the request to authorize Washoe County Community Services Department Engineering and Capital Project Division to initiate a request for qualifications or RFQ process for architectural design and construction support services for the Hidden Valley Fire Station tenant improvements and new truck bay project located at 3255 West Hidden Valley Drive, and upon successful scope of review and negotiation with the selected professional firm, provide the Board of Fire Commissioners with professional services agreement for consideration and possible authorization in the support of the project.
Seconded.
I have a motion from the Vice Chair, second from the Commissioner Hill. Just one brief discussion in this, Ms. Canderas. The agenda is posted wrong, that is Commission District 2, not Commission District 4, but that's okay. Wherever the project is, it doesn't matter.
That it can be overlooked.
Yeah, I'm sure they can be. But I have a motion and a second. No further discussion. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Please affirm your votes on the screen. All right, we are into our public hearing. We'll open the public hearing. Chief, item 12.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 12. Turn my mic on. Item 12 is a public hearing to approve a lease between TM and the Bureau of Land Management for the Wadsworth Station. The board may be aware that we lease that station currently to Pyramid Lake Tribe, who is the first response agency to a small area of TM that's in Wadsworth. BLM will also be a leasee of that station and occupy one bay, and they'll keep their firefighting assets there as well.
Great. All right. Madam Clerk, since this is a public hearing, is there any comments or any emails submitted?
I have no public comment submitted.
All right, seeing no public comment in regards to this public hearing, is there a need from any of the commissioners on for a presentation on this item? Seeing none, Vice Chairman?
Yeah, let me just make a quick comment. Just some historic facts about this. We had some real issues out in Wadsworth with respect to the way that we were responding. And the chief came up with an incredibly ingenious association and partnership with the Pyramid Lake Tribe to cover Wadsworth. They've never had better fire service in as many years as I can remember. It's always been a volunteer service, which has been good and effective, but it's always hard, as all of you know, to get volunteers and get them out on the scene when you need them, because they also have lives. So I just want to thank the chief for the hard work in this. This is now, I mean, we're going on. When did we start this, chief, with them? Did 2014 or 15?
I think it was 14.
14, yeah. So this has just been a great ongoing relationship. Chief Pelt has been wonderful to work with, and so for me personally, I'm fully supportive of this in District 4.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Seeing no further comment, looking at this time for a motion on this item.
I'll do it again. So moved.
All right, Vice Chairman, I have a motion from the Vice Chair. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Hill. We've taken public comment, so seeing no further public comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously with all commissioners voting. Please affirm your votes on the screen.
Commissioner Herman?
Commissioner Herman, can you place your vote, please? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We are on, perfect, thank you. The motion carries unanimously, all commissioners voting. Chief, item 13.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 13 was going to be a public hearing, but Ms. Canderas would like to table this, and we would like to move it to May 18th due to the fact that we did not indicate that this would be for possible action. So we'll need to move this out 2 weeks. So in May 18th, we'll have, no?
Well,
I'll
actually,
let Grace.
yeah, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, your credentialed employees are having a debate about this item because it doesn't say for possible action. We are hearing that you just open it and take any public comment and close it, and if no action is taken, then I believe it is okay the way it is written. But if any action is taken, it would be void under the open meeting law. So I think I'm going to go forward. We're going to let you go forward on this, but no action can be taken. We're just going to open it, public comment, and close it. So sorry about the confusion. We just wanted to make sure we did it right.
Okay, well, okay, hold on one second.
I do believe we have Kendra Follett from Sherman and Howard on Zoom, if that would help.
No, Ms. Vance,
Okay.
hold on one second. I'm looking at, I want to discuss rules here really quick. Yeah, Ms. Canderas, I believe, I understand where you're coming from. I disagree in regards to the conduct of business because it was properly agendized, just because it's not for possible action. I think, I assume most items are for possible action on this unless stated for discussion only. And it has been listed as a public hearing. I would disagree that I think this board can take action, and I feel adequately responsible that we don't have to delay this. But that's my decision. I mean, that would be my opinion.
The only thing I would say is if there's action on it, the statute itself in NRS 241.020 states that we have to put for possible action next to the item. And that's why I was giving it a strict construction.
Okay. All right, we'll just table it, and we can bring it back on our special meeting on the 18th. It won't delay it that long.
And it isn't meant for any action, so it
It's
is
not
not
meant-
meant for action.
It's not meant for action.
No, we will, June 1st, we'll be bringing back an agenda item that's the resolution for action. This is just to hear public comment for a public hearing.
Okay, that's fine if that's the case.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Vance, please take us into this item then.
Okay, this is, should I read the agenda?
You can
I don't know if we got that
paraphrase
far.
if you'd like.
You can, just paraphrase
Okay,
what
thank
we're
you.
here to do today, Ms.
Cindy
Vance.
Vance, Chief Fiscal Officer, Truckee Meadows. This is the public hearing on the proposed issuance of the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District General Obligation Bonds for $7 million. This is a public hearing only. No action should be taken. Just opening up the hearing for for taking comments, and the resolution will come back in June 1st for adoption.
So, okay, we'll have a resolution June 1st.
Yes.
Great.
And Kendra Follett from Sherman and Howard and John Peterson from J&A Consulting are available for questions,
Okay.
but no
All
action.
right, thank you for the clarification, do appreciate that. Thank you, Ms. Canderas, I do appreciate you looking at that very, so, Madam Clerk, is there any signed-in public comment on this item?
I have nobody signed in.
All right, Commissioners, is there any discussion or questions for this, for Ms. Vance or the Chief on this item? All right, seeing none, we will not taking action. We have no public comment. We will see you back on June 1st in regards to this item and move forward. All right, Chief, that ends our public hearings. We're on to our final final couple items. Item 14, this is our Chiefs and Fire Commissioners' announcements. Chief, do you have anything further?
Nothing additional, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Commissioners, do I have anything from Vice Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Canderas, would it be wise to put, and this is what, I know the chairman was looking exactly for the same thing that I was in basically our policy rules that are listed at the beginning of the agenda. Would it be wise to make a statement there that all items could possibly be for action? Would that suffice in issues like this where we somehow there was a clerical error?
Just based on the strict construction that the Attorney General's office tends to give the open meeting law, I'd say not. And what I'll do is look into this issue specifically with the public hearings and come up with a recommendation to make sure that we're being consistent on that. So it could just be that I haven't seen it as the public hearings really treated that way. So I just think I'd like to look at that issue, and I'll get back to you. I'm comfortable for today that we're in compliance with the open meeting law, and we can always make a corrective action if we have
And,
to.
and perhaps what we can do, and I'm not a lawyer, but I did stay in a Holiday Inn Express recently. You know, under public hearing, maybe right there that all items listed, you know, may be for action, something of that nature, right there under, you know, when we enter the public hearing section of our agenda, and it just stays there. It's just, you know, copied and pasted into each agenda.
And that may be a very good solution.
So that we don't run into this issue at some point in the future.
And then, in addition to that, unless it was notated unless for discussion only, or the
Yeah,
item was
right.
notated that way.
Right.
That every agenda item, as listed in the agreement, would be for action unless noted.
Unless
you know.
noted otherwise, yeah.
So, anyways,
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you, Vice Chairman. I do have a couple requests. Obviously, I brought it up earlier and kind of did it out of sync. I'd like to do it now. Chief, I'd like to look at, based upon the fire in Sun Valley, to the capital projects, if we can move forward a discussion of a purchase of another ladder truck or ladder apparatus for the Northern Battalion, and make sure that those pieces of equipment are readily available. I'd like to have that be brought back as an agenda item. Also, I want to take a look at staffing sizes. As we move forward with the construction of these new stations, we've talked about it here a number of times. We at Truckee Meadows have prided ourselves for many years that we have three-man crews at our stations, but as we build a new Washoe Valley station, we'll have a 5-man crew there potentially. And if we're looking at expansion in regards to transports and whatnot, and in addition of ambulances, I'd like to look at certain stations that have high call volume, 5-man stations that can suffice those types of calls. And if we have a ladder truck necessary, you know, at certain stations based upon call volume. So those are the couple items I'd like to have brought back for future discussion. Anything else? Any of the commissioners? All right, seeing none, I will close that. We are on to item 15. This is our final public comment. Madam Clerk, is there anyone signed in for public comment?
I have nobody signed in.
All right, seeing no public comment, we will close public comment. We are adjourned. Thanks very much.